Human Extinction, Doom and Gloom 3. Doomsday predictions throughout history. Many people have made end-of-the-world predictions throughout history. Most have been religious. I read a story about the development of the Jehovah's Witness cult. They had a doomsday prediction date for the 1920s. When it came and went, the founder said their efforts had caused God to spare the world. Then when he died, they trashed his dogma and reinvented their religion with new ideas. Most end-of-the-world predictions are religious. Nowadays, we got the alleged science and ecology guys making claims. They get a lot of debunking. I've seen Guy McPherson made fun of a lot because he predicted human extinction about 20 years for 10 years into the future. That came and went. He's still going at it now, predicting 2030 as the end date for humanity. We have apocalyptic claims going back to the book of Revelation in the Bible and other religions. We had the 2012 prediction in the Mayan calendar because it stopped in the year 2012. I don't bother with the economic doomer and gloomers anymore because it's always the same. They predict the bubble about to burst into an economic collapse since I started listening to the Chuck Harder for the People radio show in the late 1980s. Pat Choate wrote the book Bankruptcy 1995 about economic calamity right around the corner. Nowadays, YouTube is full of doomers and gloomers like Richard Wolff, Chris Hedges, Gerald Salant, Jeff Barrick, Dollar Vigilante, Paul Joseph Watson, Eric Weinstein, and even former comedian Russell Brand claiming to be a Christian. Look at some of the video titles on his YouTube channel. There's another guy who has been saying there is a big reset right around the corner for over 10 years on his YouTube channel. People listen to the same stuff repeated several thousand times. He calls himself Ralph Smart Infinite Waters, diving deep. There is a market for information about an impending societal collapse right around the corner. It's another entertainment option, roughly the same as sports fans or soap opera watchers. It's the boy who cried wolf. I figured out the world was corrupt at military college at the age of 17 when I watched normal kids like myself bought into that stupid reward-punishment system they were trying to brainwash us with. They changed from being normal, fun-loving teenagers to wanting to get ahead in this artificial system at military college. I realized the entire world is like that. What do you choose? To stay true to yourself as an individual or become another brainwashed clone trying to be successful according to the capitalist system, which means selling your soul for money and status? I realized I had an individual pure soul. I wasn't like most of those clones I was surrounded by. You can't fight society. It's too strong. I cannot fight all this constant economic development going on around me, but I can live a good life as an individual. Doomers and Gloomers 1. Doomers and Gloomers come in all shapes and sizes, but usually in either the religious or right-wing flavor. These people are not necessarily looking at an ecological disaster. They're focused on human stupidity and evil, as in the economy and political infrastructure on the verge of collapse. They aren't environmentalists. They think man or humanity is the root of evil and the cause of much of the bondage and hardship on planet Earth. Before the internet came around, people looking for new, interesting ideas listened to talk radio. I listened to the mainstream radio stations like CBC in Canada, NPR, National Public Radio, and Premier Radio Network, which still is a massive conservative radio network with something like 250 million listeners every month in America. They had Rush Limbaugh for at least 30 years. They had Art Bell, the king of paranormal radio during the 1990s and 2000s. Chuck Harder started the For the People's Network in 1988 and recommended a shortwave radio for $30, which I bought, which gave me access to the radio station WWCR, Worldwide Christian Radio Network, which sold airtime for $100 an hour to alternative thinkers of the time before the internet existed, like William Cooper, Gene Scott, Bill Still, Jordan Maxwell, etc. Chuck Harder had lots of doomers and gloomers on his network. Their idea was that the government is bought and paid for, there is no true democracy, it's a fake show, and we're the suckers underneath the few elitists who run everything everywhere. One of his regular guests was Pat Choate with the book Bankruptcy 1995, where they always talked about the US government debt at an unsustainable rate. About the same time, Bill Still, the Still Report, was coming out with his videos while Jordan Maxwell was doing presentations saying we're ruled by secret organizations like the Masons at the top levels. You can see the US government debt at the website usdebtclock.org. The idea of how money is created out of thin air at banks then lent out as debt is known by a few alternative thinkers. Most people don't care. They accept the system as is. The truth is that banks create money out of nothing then lend it to governments, so the governments have to pay this money back at compound interest. This is why we have taxes, a big scam by the world banking system to create money out of nothing, lend it to all governments then expect this money back at compound interest. The banks didn't work or sweat for this money. They brought it into existence with several computer strokes, but everybody has to pay taxes to pay for this made-up debt. This is the big tragedy of modern society. This is slavery in disguise. Plato, the philosopher, said there are two types of slavery. Slavery in chains and bondage. Slavery of the mind, where the enslaved don't know they're under some form of mind control. If the people were really aware of this scheme to pay taxes to pay the banks for this made-up debt, some activists have speculated that they would tear down the governments and replace them a better system, but they don't. George H.W. Bush supposedly said, "If the people were to ever find out what we have done, we would be chased down the streets and lynched." The 41st President of the United States allegedly uttered the statement in response to a journalist's question about Iran-Contra in 1992, yet it has eluded documentation for a quarter century. Enlightened people watch it all, know it's a matrix controlled by elitists, know they can't change it, so they live their lives as individuals. All you can really do is accept whatever society you live in, because you don't want to go to jail as a disruptive force, and try to live the best life you can for yourself. The way the monetary system runs is a scam and not fair to people who have earned money, as opposed to creating it out of nothing like bankers do, but it runs the system. Over the years, I've seen many new people and movements come on the scene warning us about this monetary system ultimately ruled by the Bank for International Settlements in Bern, Switzerland, the secretive bank that runs the world. Their website is bis.org. There are probably several hundred videos on youtube.com talking about the fractional reserve banking system and the fiat or fake monetary system that runs the world, all the way from Bill Still, the Still Report, to Aaron Russo, the Rockefeller conspiracy, to the biggest scam in the history of mankind by Mike Maloney with the YouTube channel Gold Silver. This alarm about the impending economic collapse has been raised so many times in my lifetime that I don't pay attention to it anymore, because I know the people as a mass group are so unsophisticated they don't understand it. They simply trust that they must pay taxes in order for the government to pay for its services. Economic and ecological collapse as a genre or topic is a stable moneymaker that never grows old. Even Jim Bakker, the disgraced PTL preacher, is back with a new doom and gloom shtick on TV at jimbakkershow.com. There are many so-called journalists all over social media warning about the current situation. Ray Dalio, Gerald Salant, Chris Hedges are some of the old-timers I listen to who make their money off doom and gloom. They constantly come out saying the American government and the world at large are on the verge of irreversible collapse. There is a market for this negative news. There is another layer made up of survivalists and preppers are more nuts and bolts about the impending collapse. They tell you how to get food, shelter, and security. The thing for sure is that the people in power act to always keep their power and expand it. They never give up much of anything. This is why we rarely get anybody doing the right thing to help humanity, because the world is ruled by a few elitists who help each other while they're in power. They lie to the people. This corrupt oligarchic system keeps repeating itself. It's basically politicians getting elected in the illusion of democracy, doing what their rich benefactors want while putting on a fake show for the masses on TV. Look at the guy in power now. He said he was going to drain the swamp and help people. He started out anti-war, pro-peace, but we now have $1 trillion military budget. They created a military space agency and were so bold as to rename the Department of Defense to the Department of War to make themselves seem more macho and gung-ho. Nothing much will change for the better until there's a massive crisis. They're afraid of socialism, which is everybody helping each other so that the poor get something rather than left out in the cold to die. Watch Fox News on TV. They're fighting socialism tooth and nail. What they're really doing is saying, protect my wealth, I'm not going to give any of it up to help anybody. There are always a new slew of doom and gloom books coming out. There are a few religious and right-wing shows about it every week. They say bankruptcies are up, credit card debt is up, companies are downsizing, etc. But they neglect to say that there are new companies coming out all the time, companies are expanding, there are more people, new products, more needs, new industries, etc. Doomers and gloomers too. Nothing has changed since Charles Dickens wrote A Tale of Two Cities and started his novel with the following statement. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity, it was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us, we were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period, that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. The world is getting closer via technology. Some people earn a living selling survivalist books and products. You have to stay cool. I got enough money to live a modestly comfortable life with the freedom to do what I want within my budget. I listen to Jeff Renz at renzerdio.com because I like his level of intellectual talk, even though he's a conspiracy doomer and gloomer. Clyde Lewis at Ground Zero Radio is a good talker. I used to listen to Jordan Maxwell and Manly Palmer Hall before they died because they were real intellectuals who studied as much as any human can about what's going on. YouTube.com is a cesspool of fly-by-nighter intellectuals trying to make money by parroting other people's ideas. The doom and gloom scene is alive and well. People sell their souls to try to get views for paltry amounts of money. Social media is the epitome of sensationalism. Just look at the thumbnails all these people put up. This is their way to make money. Money rules their world. People keep piling on the BS. Plenty of people listen. The internet has replaced the TV in a lot of ways. I noticed the guy at the Midas Touch network on YouTube and other sites puts out several videos a day. Some of his videos get about 200,000 views several hours after he uploads them, but it's all the same left-wing stuff that constantly criticizes the other side. There is no real intellectual analysis there. The people want to be entertained. Politics and activism are forms of entertainment.